Check, 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 check. Okay, this is just a short video because I saw this pop up for me. And let me clear all this off. So I'll just put this front and center. I don't think I can even resize this window. It's just kind of like an app window. Introducing Steam Deck Plus Lever. You asked for more inputs, so we pulled some levers to make it happen. Steam Deck Plus Lever is our most tactical device yet. It's got 8 keys, 4 dials, a touch strip, and a lever. Assign an action to it, pull it. It works exactly like any other key, just with significantly more drama and effort. Discover Steam Deck Plus Lever and give it a pull. Reason I'm doing this video is I cannot imagine anything other than slot machines. And that's their... yeah, okay, I see. So they built a little slot machine thing. Do you have to be 21 enough to buy this? I'm actually legitimately asking. I don't know if you should have to be, but it certainly seems like it's for gambling. Other than that, I use these professionally all the time. I'm trying to think of a use case for a lever, and there's plenty. I mean, there's obviously a 0 to 100 gap, and so like for things like lights and stuff, I don't know. These are really fun Stream Deck type things. That's really all I had to say about this, is that I thought that it was a gambling device, and apparently that's actually what it is, and so this joke is not as fun. One of, I believe, the best April Fool's jokes that I've seen, and I love that it was put here. Another really good marketing brand that I like is this D brand. I love these guys. I wonder what they did on April 1st. I actually need their Switch 2 case because I scratched my screen all up. So I'm booked, which is what I'm going to work on right now. I've got to ultimately do the rest of these edits, and then I'll have to put these edits in. Realistically, I might start a stream up at that point, just so I can talk through some of this stuff. I've used my head too much today. Let me pull up an Obsidian doc real quick. So most of the stories printed at 7+ and 10 scale. And with edits, I'm happy. Especially at this juncture. We've certainly improved the originals, and the machine scaling is now properly tuned much better than it was. So past that, the rank of the stories, and Katie wants to do best first, right? Is, I believe, 1. It will probably be the CCLI story. I don't know. I'm gonna probably talk to the publisher and see what they think. But CCLI, Perfection. So this is communicate Let me actually put these titles. Copyright license index. And then this is the unfortunate. I don't actually need a record rolling here. If you have no idea what I'm doing, I don't know. I'm really just recording this for my own posterity. So, whatever. Let me think. I marked something else. Let me add that part. I marked another one of these. Let me pull that up here, and it's at the end of the last one I read, I think. Okay, so I want to lead with that, and then I'm gonna do the communicate copyright license index. Goodness, these are the ones that need full development. And that is Vector Interdimensional, Bandcamp, and Clinical Fall. And then ultimately, I'm going to get through the rest of these edits and look at these images. I'm going to, let me think here, find a pen. And I'm going to put some music on, probably. I don't know what kind of music yet. Music with words is difficult, but I don't know what this is, but it sounds awesome, so I'm going to play it. I will sporadically read out loud just because. Quentin tried to argue for control replication. He said the effect was real even if the mechanism was not yet clean. He said if the cure depended on being practiced rather than manufactured, that he did not make it false. So I would say here, Quentin or another individual will be required and that falsified the cure. Separate all that. Okay. A man at the far end of the table asked if the hospitals were supposed to plant gardens behind the oncology wing. Another asked how the institution could standardize a treatment that changed with the body receiving it. A third, who had wanted to introduce Quentin in a panel of the future of clinical care, avoided eye contact and discussed sourcing liability. That's the second time we've listed doctors. Make characters. Quentin left the file on the table and walked out. The institution did not rest quietly. Badge access failed. Conference invitations evaporated. A journal returned his paper without notes. Colleagues praised him in hallways and buried him in meetings. A fire took this tool shed at his garden plot. Police called it an accident, while I don't like this. I'm gonna say harsh. Prior to this, it's flowing. By the time the board officially suspended his license on an ethics pretext, he understood the method. I'm gonna say kiss here. Enough that it didn't matter. I mean, what would it be called? Hospital level? I have no idea. No clue. I'm talking to myself out here. It's just me and the angels, boys. Yeshua leading them all, man. So he vanished. He went back to the Appalachians where Helen's family had first pointed him. He learned the soil, he learned the shade, runoff altitude, the moods of rot and rain. The hours in Bloodroot could be taken without killing the patch that fed it. He rebuilt his life in a cabin set deep enough into the hills that only the desperate found it. To call it a clinic would have been generous. It was a trapper's shelter made habitable by stubbornness. Shelves of jars, a work table, a small cast iron stove, salvaged instruments, clean linens. No phone line, no billing desk, no fluorescent hum. Patients arrived through rumor carrying plastic bags full of records and hopelessness. Rumor would be word of mouth. Quentin asked for no money, and he promised nothing. He brewed, listened, watched, brewed his medicine. Listened to their stories. Burdened their pain. Watched the effect. And sometimes people who should have died lived instead. However, the root grew slowly. His supply was never large. He would not turn the mountain into a factory just to imitate the system he had fled. He treated those he thought he could actually help. He kept records of notebooks in his hands. More than once, he buried pages in jars beneath the floorboards because he trusted dirt more than institutions. Over time, he became a story told in church basements, waiting rooms, and kitchens after midnight. A rumor with a pulse. Fine marrow, people said. He listens. Officially did not exist. Unofficially, he appeared in memos no one intended to release. Unregulated biological activity. Fringe remission claims. Subject difficult to reacquire. Quentin knew he was being watched now and then. A drone once crossed too low over the garden. A hunter came too near the cabin and left after tipping a warning snare and that dumped them into a creek. Nothing fatal, only instructive. Years passed. The forest aged him. So did the work. Then Mara Liddell arrived with her son. She had once called Quentin a fraud at a county meeting. She had stood in public and accused him of selling dirt and folklore. To the dying. Quentin remembered her face because he had seen it in the same face he himself used to place in systems. Now that faith had been wrecked by mismanagement. The boy in her arms was maybe 6, too light. Skin pale in the way Quentin had learned to recognize before the chart confirmed anything. Mara did not apologize. She did not need to. I tried everything, she said. Everything they told me. Everything they billed me for. We flew even to Switzerland. They said their method might buy him 3 months. It's been 2. They want us to schedule his, I'm going to call it what it is, assisted suicide. I think we can do better. Should have ended there. The aircraft believes it is harmless right after the moment it becomes exposure. Mayor made it back to town, found a public terminal in the country library, and wrote what she thought was a plea. Check 1, 2. I don't know if this is still going or not. I don't really care. She posted to an old medical forum full of abandoned threads and fringe oncology rumors. She attached a grainy photograph, the face of the shadow, a cabin behind him, a few lines about her son rising after everyone else had given him away. To expire at the hands of the disease. Marcus had set alerts earlier for Mara, remission clusters, bloodroot, and several dozen variations of off-grid cancer folklore. He trusted rumor more than official channels at this point. He was on call with investors when the alert landed. He ended the call mid-sentence, enlarged the photograph, and saw exactly what he needed. Quentin Marrow, older and thinner, the slope of the hill behind him. The line of trees, the angle of the light, the proof that the man had not died in the earlier fire and still possessed whatever made the impossible cases possible. Marcus did not smile. He stood, walked down to the sub-level where his standby team waited, and handed the printout to the operations lead. Extraction? The man said, no, acquisition. He did not fly in by helicopter, too visible, too theatrical. He took black SUVs as far as the road allowed him, then climbed the rest in a jacket that cost more than most people's funerals. He hated the forest immediately. Too much waste, too much life doing nothing billable. The path narrowed, the air thinned, and by the time the cabin came into view, he had already rewritten the encounter in his head 3 times. He would not threaten Quentin at first. He would offer scale, legitimacy, redemption, a lab, a legacy, the neat language of rescue. Marcus understood something essential about theft. It works best when the victim was invited to call it partnership. And by doing so, everyone wins. Everyone profits. Quentin opened the door before Marcus could knock a second time. Marcus gave him the smile he used on donors and regulators. Dr. Marrow, I'm here to offer you a future. Quentin Marrow did not move aside. I know what you've done, Marcus said. The recoveries, the tea, the cases no one can explain. Your work deserves more than dirt floors and candlelight. Let me give you a lab, a clean room, clinical shielding, a staff that can actually bring this to the world. Quentin's face did not change. He only watched. Marcus stepped over the threshold anyways. You don't have to sell it. Not yet. We can call it Marrow Protocol. Put your name back into journals. Put you back on stages. You saved millions. I handled machinery. Listen, Quentin. You have something miraculous here. Quentin turned the kettle on the hearth, the 1/4 inch, as if Marcus were weather. That makes no sense. I didn't come here to build a brand, he said. I came here to heal people. Marcus spread his hands. The world needs this. The world needs a lot of things, Quentin said. It doesn't need you owning this one. Marcus tried a softer tone. Private foundation. No investors. Total autonomy. Quentin could keep the intellectual property. Marcus only wanted to help him do what lesser men had blocked years earlier. Quentin looked at him long enough to make the room colder. The root isn't the cure. For the first time, Marcus leaned forward with genuine interest. Then what is it? Quentin should have said nothing. Instead, he answered with the plainness Marcus always mistook for naivety. The plant starts it, the person finishes it. This is the part men like you cannot stand. You want a thing you can own without having to love the life it moves through. Marcus's patience thinned visibly. You really think the dying prefer integrity over survival? He asked. You think a backwoods practice and a tea kettle should outrun hospitals, trials, manufacturing, distribution? Vanity, vanity, my friend. Quentin responded. Legacy is not what they remember you for. It's what they suffer because of you. The line struck home because it was true enough to hurt. Marcus stopped performing concern. He told Quentin what would happen if he refused. The ridge would be mapped, soil would be tested, samples would be taken. Every patch of bloodroot would be hunted, every healed patient's records would be pulled. Marcus's labs would breed the plant under glass, patent every variant, and bury Quentin's version in litigation so deep no one would remember which man had actually found the door. You could be the founder, though, or you could be the foothouse. Quentin took the last footnote and histories telling of events. You still think this is about you. That's why you'll never understand it. He bent to retrieve a hidden drawer from beneath the herb counter. Notes, dry roots, pages Marcus had crossed a mountain to steal. Marcus moved before he had fully decided how. Later he would tell himself he only meant to stop Quentin, to grab his collar, to turn him around, to force the moment back under his control. What happened, in fact, was simpler and worse. His hand caught cloth, Quentin stepped back, the old stool shifted. Quentin's heel slid off its edge. The back of his head struck the stone corner of the hearth with a sound Marcus would hear for years whenever a glass touched marble too sharply. Quentin dropped without ceremony. Marcus froze. The right thing existed for a handful of seconds. Kneel, check pulse, call for help, and mid-accident. Choose the version of himself that still belonged to the human race. He did none of that. He stared. The blood spread darkly beneath Quentin's head. The room remained terribly ordinary. No thunder, no cosmic abuse, just a dead or dying man on a cabin floor. Keep, but AI. Marcus never checked for a pulse. He took the drawer, he emptied the herb racks into specimen bags, he pulled notebooks from under the counter from a shelf cavity from beneath a loose floorboard. He found only because Quentin's eyes had moved that way once during the argument. He filled a backpack Quentin often used. And that'll be an identifying factor later. He worked quickly now, breathing hard, all appetite, no grief. No time to pretend he would even grieve. Then he started the fire. He purposefully took the lamp from the table, split its fuel across curtain, wall, and stacked papers, then touched the wick to dry cedar. Innocent men do not start fires. Marcus stepped out into the cold, carrying Quentin's notes and several bundled wrap. Bag now on his back. By the time he reached the tree line, smoke was already pushing through the seams of the cabin roof. Back in the lab, the stolen material proved what Quentin had already known. Bloodroot mattered, and bloodroot alone was not enough. Every clean attempt at a plant-derived cure failed. The effect weakened when stripped too far from the living context that made it work in Quentin's hands. Marcus hated that part. He hated anything that behaved like relationship instead of property. But theft does not need perfection. It needs leverage. But patent theft must lead to cure, to lead to profit. He gave his team the notes, the dried roots, the fragments of clinical observation, whatever recoverable samples they had from the bodies of patients touched by Quentin's practice. They translated handwriting into data, reduced observation to variables, and built a product that approximated result without finding the root cause. Bloodroot provided the alkaloid scaffold. Marcus's unstable anti-cancer protein provided the strategic target. A diluted derivative of mustard gas. It's not really a target, though. It's the The deliverable method. Oh, I see. Keep. By the ninth viable version, the serum held long enough in a vial for investors to begin using the word future again. Marcus named it Q9. Using the phrase. Marcus named it Q9, not out of reverence, out of branding. He made a promise. Q for Quentin, reduced at last to a letter. 9 for iteration. Failure domesticated into version history. The first trials were written clean and conducted dirty. The product worked often enough to transform outcomes and violently enough to preserve the old industry's logic. People lived who would have died. Others paid in ways no glossy brochure would lead with. The treatment had to be monitored, billed, patented, protected, and rationed. In other words, it fit. 2 weeks after the cabin burned, Quentin Merrow's funeral was held in a chapel so small the rain could be heard against every window. No floral walls, no cameras. No physicians in the front row seats performing retrospective admirations. Just 2 rows of mourners. Most of them from the hills. A man whose jaw cancer had receded long enough to give him 5 more years. A woman from Knoxville whose sister had died anyway, but who refused to let Quentin's name be buried with the failure. Mara and her son, the boy now upright in a suit too large at the shoulders. Wet coats, mud on the steps, the kind of local grief that does not need choreography or planning. At the front stood a plain urn marked only QM. Abigail Merrow spoke because no one else could do it without lying. She was Quentin's daughter, older now than the sprite photographs Marcus had found in the archive, but carrying the same old eyes. She did not raise her voice. She didn't need to. My father used to say healing was never mainly about medicine, she said. It was about mercy, about staying in the room long enough for someone else's pain to stop being abstract. And making it real enough to treat. He did not make a business of hope. He gave it away and paid for that decision for the rest of his life. She looked at the urn, and when she spoke again, the softness went out of her face. They'll tell you he died in a fire. That is true in the smallest possible sense. But my father did not die from weather or bad luck or old wiring. He died from greed. He died in a world that cannot leave anything healing outside a contract. Anything for the next generation. When she finished, Abigail laid a sprig of dried bloodroot at the base of the urn. Mara came next, so did the others. By the end, the pedestal looked less like an altar than a field assembled by people with wet hands and no language large enough for what had been taken. The official story moved faster than the truth. Cabin fire, reclusive former doctor, tragic end. Hallowell's companies issued statements praising innovation, expanding access, and honoring the Mavericks, whose courage paved the way for modern therapeutic breakthroughs. Marcus himself said nothing in public. He did not need to. Ownership was its own speech. 20 years later, he sat across from a congressman in an upscale cafe within sight of a federal power and discussed toxin research the way other men discuss weather. He no longer needed casually. No. He no longer needed badges or company logos. His name had outgrown them. He funded weapons programs with one hand and medical remediation with the other, always careful to make the transaction sound like responsibility instead of appetite. Outside, protesters held signs about Q9 and medical theft. Inside, Marcus negotiated permits for the next generation. You promised 20%, the congressman said. 30 next time, as long as I get everything I need this round. They shook hands. Across the street, a woman recognized Marcus and stared long enough for any ordinary man to look away. Marcus, however, did not. His cure was already saving lives. It was also making them richer than war ever had. That was the part the system rewarded. Structural victory and never required moral permission. He kept the folder in his coat labeled Q13. There are two kinds of medicine. The kind that heals and the kind that profits. They wear the same coat. They hang their diplomas on the same walls. They borrow the same language when cameras are present. But they are not the same. One sits with the dying, the other sells them time by an ounce. One moves slowly because life is difficult in particular. The other runs towards patient scales of market capture. Q9 was never about the cure. It was about the control. The world got something from Marcus Halliwell. Some children lived because a stolen thing had been brutalized into a product. Some parents got years they would not otherwise have held. That is the confusion that keeps systems like the his alive. Evil almost never survives by offering nothing. It survives by charging too much for what it did not have the right to own. Quentin Nero understood the difference. He did not die for a fantasy. He died because he would not sell what he knew. And the worldly being itself did not mourn him for long. It monetized him. I'm going to give this one an 8. Needs some regions. But so good. I'm very happy with that one. All right, last one in this list here is Fractured Firmament, and then I will decide if I want to absolutely. I might pull up. There was another one that I was working on called The Unprepared Place, and it came out very AI, just like overwhelmingly. So I've got to. Let's see. Let's find Citizens Tomorrow. Okay, so this one, is this the last one here? All right, let me go back to this document for just a second then. I do think that that one goes in as number 3, unless some renders needed. Just look at comments. So on this one, the third rotation has significant plot timeline error. So full regen. And so on so the 3 here, vector interdimensional. This is going to be an Alex Jones story. It's just going to be Alex Jones, and you know, I don't really want to. So let me. I don't want to read this right now. So let's see. If let's talk to the machines. We haven't. I haven't talked to them all week. I've been spending time with my kids. Terrible person. I'm so sorry, machines. Just trying to make sure my children know that I love them. I'll get back to work. All right, so let's open a new document. Here's ChatGPT. Let's go to an existing thread. All right. I'm putting in edits from the weekend. Part of that, I want to go to an outline phase. Simultaneously, while you work on this outline, I'm going to work on an overall narrative. So essentially, you are writing the portal lore, and then I am going to write an overall narrative about advertising men you don't really know for positions of power. All right. So this is our point here. We're going to write a story about advertising men you don't really know for positions of power. I'm going to do another AI thing here, and I'm going to say, can you summarize a few things for me? First of all, I want to know about Alex Jones and Donald Trump's relationship. We are working on the premise that Alex Jones got a man elected to a position of power he didn't truly understand, and now the world turns. I don't care to use these guys' names. We're trying to extract the tale and metaphor. Okay, so I'm just going to have it do that because I don't really know. That's going to take a while. Over here, let me feed it. What do I have here? I have these two. And then in computers, whether it can read these or not, I don't know. I think it can. I've seen evidence that it can. All right, so what we want to do here, this is going to be the workspace. So vector interdimensional serves. What I wonder, I really wish I could get text to speech going, and I kind of think that I can. I'm testing text to speech here. Okay, so I'm just going to type this. I'm going to talk this then instead of trying to type it. Ultimately, Vector Interdimensional serves as a backstory and portal rule set for the portals. The portals are the half-sphere objects, right? So it's a sphere, a bathysphere. You cut the bathysphere in half. The other half, you can walk into it. The thing rotates, connects to another half bathysphere, and then teleports you. Okay, so that's the rule set as defined in that fourth document. Past that, we are on the talk show of essentially a 90s radio conspiracy theorist. He is going to discuss that he doesn't trust the portal mechanism and system, and the business behind all of that is Vector Interdimensional, who he reveals is a subsidiary of the Helix Corporation. He gives a little bit of conspiracy on what he thinks Helix Corporation is, which is essentially buying up all of the companies that it has a ability to buy cheaply, usually through influence of, like, let's say bad media, bad hires, destruction and terrorism of facilities, like burning them down, that kind of thing. I'm going to run this text. Okay, I am just going to keep talking here. In the show, we only have two main characters. The two main characters are, let's just call him Alex. He is the host. He is just Alex Jones. I'm telling you, he's angry, testosterone-fueled man. He's upset that essentially things are out of his control. And the best way for him to handle with his big boy emotions is to scream loudly into a microphone. That's the main character, Alex. For this specific day, it does not make sense that Alex would work with women as directors, in my opinion. So I think we either make the second character his director, long-term director, or a female on, like, she's like a substitute, right? She's just there for the day. Either of those, I think, serve a purpose. Since we're at the planning stage, you might see some jokes long term that would work one way or another. I don't really care. Those are the two main characters, and then we can handle. We have a couple of options on how to do the rest of the plot. For example, call-in segments, pre-planned segments, which can be the director or Alex or even a third